Ahlan wa sahlan. I'm Hala Gores of the Arab American Cultural Center of Oregon. We welcome you to AACCO's series of interviews of Arab American artists in Oregon in honor of April's Arab Heritage Month. Before I introduce our very special guest today, I would like to express AACCO's deep sense of gratitude to Synergy Legal, Barbara Heichel, Kareem Heichel, and Jake Quain for their generous contributions in making these projects a reality for Oregon's Arab American community. Let's turn to our honored guest, Palestinian American educator and artist, Feryal Abbasi-Ghnaim. Feryal is a world-renowned folk artist who is the recipient of many awards over the years. The most prestigious of those awards is the National Endowment for the Arts National Heritage Fellowship. The fellowship is a national or a lifetime honor and the highest form of recognition presented to master folk and traditional artists by the US government. Feryal is the first Palestinian American and the first Arab American to be awarded a National Heritage Fellowship. Welcome, Feryal, and thank you for joining us today. For those in our audience who are not familiar with what Tatriz is, can you talk a little bit about what is Tatriz and what is its connection to Palestinian women?
Yeah. First of all, what I can call that Tatriz, unwritten language transferred, it transferred from woman to woman in silence. They used the needle and the thread instead of the pen and paper, or a pen and paper instead of fabric. So since women, Palestinian women in the past, not now of course, she never went to school. Like my mother never went to school, while my father and his family were educated, highly educated, people. Because, men can travel here and there for business, for doing stuff they need to write or read, and it's very important for them to write and read. While women, they are staying home and they don't go from any place to any place, just stay home with their kids. So of course, every woman has, or everybody, every human being want to express their feeling, whether it is writing, their diary, or want to talk about anything they have in mind. So the Palestinian woman also has the same thing because it is something born with them. So they used the embroidery as a language of communication, a language of telling about their life, about the environment around them, about if any trouble was there, like in Palestine in particular, there was so many different events going on since the beginning of the 20th century, since like Wad Balfour, then or Balfour Declaration, or the British mandatory to Palestine, over Palestine, then introducing weapons, then all these things are documented on the clothes. So the top, the clothes it was used to document the woman's life.
I see. So the tob is the traditional Palestinian dress. Yes. And you're saying that these Palestinian women would convey their messages or their feelings or their history on the tob itself. And what kind of motifs did they use to do that?
Yes, they like the motifs, like if they want to describe the environment about them. They live in that house, they have a little small farm or a little garden around the house. So they have flowers. They have those animals that they raise, like chickens. They have goats. They have sheep. They have cows. Everything around them, they represented it on their toe.
So Feryal, yes. I want to take you back to the time period when you won the National Endowment for the Arts National Heritage Fellowship in 2018. You received a letter of congratulations from Governor Kate Brown. And if you don't mind, I'd like to read a little bit of that letter. So Governor Brown says in her letter, your journey, or she writes in her letter, your journey as a master Palestinian embroiderer is awe-inspiring. Despite personal hardship and the loss of your native land, you have continued to celebrate and preserve this cherished domestic art for your people. I learned that Palestinian embroidery has its roots in giving voice to women. Yet another reason to applaud your mastery and continuation of this beautiful art form. So when Governor Brown is talking about this embroidery, the Tatriz, giving voice to women, you've discussed that a bit here. Can you tell us in terms of communication between Palestinian women when, in the time period when they were illiterate, how did they communicate with each other from one village to another village?
Yes. My own story, or the story that I know the most, is like my grandfather to my mother, and my grandmother. They lived in Safad, but they at the same time they had my grandfather had some business around Safad in like 3 villages, and he used to go check on the workers. The business was the olive oil presser, that they do the olive oil in those 3 places. And one time he was going to a village which is close to Safad. So my grandmother, she had a friend of her living in that village, but she didn't see her in a long time. So she decided that she wanted to send a message to that woman. Her friend had like her son was newly married at that time, and she learned that by, some women, or they knew about that and they told her. So she thought that, how can I know the situation there? Are they living with each other? Because usually or traditionally, when the son married, he lived with his family, and with his bride, he brought the bride to his family and lived there. So she wanted just to know, how women, sometimes something which go in their mind and they couldn't sleep sometimes, and they just want to know the news. What can she do? She decided to embroider a pillowcase. And on the pillowcase, it was first 2 portions on it from the design. The first portion is 2 birds facing each other, and the nest in the middle. And and it's so pretty picture. Then a little further, like the other portion would be those 2 birds, the same 2 birds are back to back, and the nest is like divided in the middle. She said, just tie it and give it to my grandfather, and she didn't tell him anything, just told him, please give this present to my friend Mahmoud. he just put it in his pocket and go, because she cannot ask him to ask her, oh, how can, men, they don't like that. So he took it and went there, and as soon as he arrived there, he took that pillowcase from his pocket and gave it to Mahmoud, and he said, oh, this is Imam Muhammad sent with me this for you. And she took it and said, oh, how she put her at trouble on herself, because she has little kids and things, thank you. And she opened it, in one second. She understood what she meant with this design that she put it on. So she decided, herself, Mahmoud, decided to embroider the answer. And she embroidered one portion, which is back to back, back to back with the nest. There is a divider in that. And finish it in that 3 days where she do, or my grandfather is staying 3 days. She gave it to him and she said, please give this to Imam Muhammad. And he put it in his, not knowing anything is going around, in his pocket. He went, gave it to Imam Muhammad, which is my grandmother. And she opened it. Oh, that's, she understood. Yeah, without reading anything.
Every one of those is Palestinian embroidery?
Yes, for some cities, like that one from Bethlehem, Bethlehem. This is from northern Palestine, Galilo. Yeah, and there is from Deir Yassin, there is from Khalil, there is from أذان ناصر وحده هناك يعني يكفي يعني.
So Feryal, for our audience, you just described different tobes or Palestinian traditional dresses from different parts of Palestine. Do the tobes that are from Nazareth, are they very different from the tobes that are from the south of Palestine in Naqab? Are they different from Ramallah?
Yes, but most, Nablus and Ramallah, very big difference. But Ramallah from Khalil, from very similar. There are similar things. The colors maybe is different, the embroidery, yeah.
Are the motifs different based on where the Palestinian women are from that make these dresses?
Yeah, there are many differences between the places, but my work is not to divide, because I learned the embroidery in the diaspora, okay? And when we all together, if you go to a camp, you can find all Palestine in that camp, see? That's why I don't like to say this. But if you want to go deep in the tradition of the history of the tradition, you would learn this. But I would not. I don't like dividing them for the generation, because all our hope that our Palestinian generation all know that they are all one unit, unity, the unity. That's why I don't like to, unless we are searching, then we can know. But our generation, they know, because we all united under one top, okay?
So Feryal, did the tradition of Tatriz continue in the camps, in the refugee camps?
Yeah, of course, yeah. Those older women, they just, they are still wearing till now, but every generation come, it is less interest in doing the embroidery. But like 10 years from 10 years and now, there is increasing activity in the embroidery. They knew, after they understood that our tradition is going to be stolen. So
that is why the work that you do, educating the younger generation and teaching them to do Palestinian Tatriz, is so important. And on that note, we thank you and we hope to see you in person soon.
Thank you very much. Okay.